The Honor Magic V3 is back in my hands. Shout out to my friend Assad for letting me borrow this for a week to review it. So let's get back into this. I really enjoy the packaging. Like, look at what we get from smartphones nowadays. Samsung, Apple, Google. Just the box and the cable and the phone. But Honor, they give you the whole package. I know you've probably seen this already, but it's just amazing, man. You get a case, you get a fast charger in the box, cable, everything, in addition to this beautiful phone. But let's dive into the phone though. The Honor Magic V3 is running on Magic OS. It is a folding phone that is very thin, basically as thin as like a Pro Max iPhone or your regular slab phone. So it's amazing because of the fact that it can open up like this and become a tablet straight from your pocket. It's also really light, near the weight of those flagship phones. It has a decent camera system. This phone features really fast wireless charging, really fast wired charging, and on top of all that, it has stylus support. This is the Magic Pen that's compatible with it. You can use it on the front screen, which is something that Samsung's Z Fold series can't do. You can use it on the front screen, and then you can also use it on the inside as well. So a really versatile and amazing device right off the bat, just from the, brief description. But how is it actually using this phone? This is a Chinese smartphone, so it's not released everywhere in the world. They do have a global version. This is the Chinese version, but they're very similar aside from like some bloat and stuff like that. But how is the software experience? Right off the bat, I'm just going to get into some of my favorite things. One thing I love about the Honor Magic V3 is the folders and how you can change the size of them in these interesting and dynamic ways. It's so cool. It allows you to have very custom home screen setups. And then when you have your folders set up like this, you can easily tap the icon of the apps inside of them to instantly launch the app. So that is a really nice addition to customization of the home screen. So that's something that I really enjoy right off the back. Another thing is the gestures. So if you swipe and hold, you'll get this edge panel gesture, which basically is a bunch of different apps that you can edit and add apps to this panel and open them in floating windows primarily. So if I just open it and then tap an app, it will be a floating window right off the back. So it's mainly for that, but you can also drag and drop apps from here into a split screen or a full screen window. So if I do it again, grab the calculator, drag and drop into a split screen session. So that is really nice. Other notable things about the operating system: accessing your notifications, you swipe from the left side, and then when you swipe from the right side, you get your control panel. So similar to iOS Apple devices. And in the control panel, you can edit it to add different shortcuts, and you can reset it. Obviously, you can't really customize these things at the top, but this is how it looks. Right here, this is another cool feature that I like. You can have multiple users on the phone. Let's say you have eSIMs, you can have multiple numbers, you can have multiple Google accounts logged in and have their own separate file. It's kind of like using a Windows PC or a computer in general, like a MacBook, and having multiple users. They have their own separate files, their own separate apps, things like that. That's a really nice feature to have. Samsung phones don't have that. Moving on, just the basic navigation of the phone, simple Android stuff. You swipe and hold up to go into your task switcher, but the multitasking is very important on foldable devices, in my opinion. And how you do that is you swipe and hold up to the left to do a split screen, and then you can choose from your home screen to open the app into a split screen session with the initial app. And then you can also swipe and hold to the right to enter into a quick floating window. And then on the Honor Magic V3, you have the ability to have two floating windows open at the same time, and that is really nice. You can make the floating windows big and then resize them like this, and then you can minimize them. And Honor has this cool little menu right here where you can swap between your floating windows very quickly if you have more than two open. So for example, if I open YouTube into a floating window, I can tap this and basically jump between these apps. If there's only three, then it will kind of rotate like this. But if I add a fourth one, then you have this menu right here. You can exit the apps or you can open them from here. So I imagine if you have like 10 different apps open in floating windows, you can quickly access them. So it's a really cool multitasking. On top of that, you can have your two apps in the background in a split screen session. So, up to 4 apps on your screen at one time. You can also save your split screen sessions as an app pair and etc. One thing to note is how it kind of uses most of the screen when you're in a split screen session. That is also nice. But yeah, using the Honor Magic V3 is like, most other Android phones, aside from these extra features. It runs fast, it's smooth, has decent animations. The experience that you have with this phone, once you get it set up, you dial in your notification settings, because this is the Chinese version, so you're going to have to go to your power settings and adjust every single app to make sure that you're getting your notifications. And you can go one by one through all the apps and choose whether to allow the system to optimize the battery consumption for the app. And if you press don't allow, then it will basically function like a normal smartphone, like what you're used to. So you'll get your notifications, but your battery usage might go up. A lot of Chinese phones, they have more aggressive, throttling and stuff like that, killing background apps, not allowing apps to function normally to save battery life. I guess maybe that's something they prioritize in China or those regions of the world. For the apps that you really care about, like let's say your text messages, WhatsApp, things like that, you want to just turn them to do not allow so that you get your notifications. And aside from that, it's not really too much work. You will have a bunch of Chinese apps, but most of them you can honestly uninstall. Like it's really not it's really not that big of a issue when it comes to like bloatware and stuff like that. This phone, although it is a Chinese version and it doesn't like primarily use the Google apps by default, you can still enable Google Play services on this phone. If you go in settings and you search Google, you have Google Play services right here. You can enable that. And then, it tells you that it will reduce battery life and stuff like that, but turn that on will allow you to use the Play Store and just all the other Google apps and functions. You still might not be able to use Android Auto. I don't use that because I have a Tesla, so I don't really know if it works on this phone. I've seen people say different things, so I'm not sure. But yeah, in terms of setting it up, it's really not that much. But how this phone is after 6 months, when I had it initially, it was amazing. I had the global version before, and I honestly enjoyed my experience with the Honor Magic V3. Like, it's a really, 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 really good phone. I did have some notification issues with the global version, but I don't really experience that anymore on this phone. So before I was getting like, oh, this app is consuming a lot of battery, this app is consuming a lot of battery, but I've had the phone for, a good 4 days or so, 3 or 4 days, and I haven't seen that notification once. So that is nice to hear. And honestly, that was probably my main drawback to the Honor Magic V3, just that notification issue. Performance is decent. That's one aspect of this phone that I don't like. The performance is definitely not bad. It has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, which is a good chip. Same as the Z Fold 6. Z Fold 6 performs a little bit better in high-end stuff, intensive things like gaming, video editing, but it's going to be around the same level. And, you see benchmark tests and like the Z Fold 6 is slightly better in those tests compared to the V3. And, honestly, like in real world performance, that is pretty much true, but it's not bad at all. You're not going to like, especially games like Minecraft. Minecraft is not that heavy of a game and it will run perfectly fine. And you can even adjust the settings if you need to. And most games you can run pretty easily. I'm not sure why there's a trash can here. Yeah, there's like small little things like that, software issues that just pop up every now and then. And it's not bad, like bad software issues that break the experience, but you can tell that it's not as refined as Samsung's, OS. Yeah, the performance is good. Like I have no complaints about how this phone performs. And like it's a foldable phone, so you're gonna have aspect ratio stuff. Not every game will work fine with this phone. Like for example, Wild Rift. Wild Rift is not gonna give you a good field of view because of the square aspect ratio. So you're gonna have to go into settings and turn Wild Rift into 16:9 to fix that. Or you can play in split screen, which is a good solution. So that's also another annoying thing with the V3. When you're starting a split screen session, you have to start it in vertical and then tap this and change it to horizontal. And then it puts whatever app on the top, so you gotta swap it if you're putting this app at the bottom. So things like that. But yeah, if you want to have a good gaming experience for most games, just play in split screen. And as you can see, it will be like a normal smartphone aspect ratio. But one of the cool things about this phone is that on the outer display, you have basically a normal phone aspect ratio. Like this is a regular smartphone. It is a little bit slimmer than normal smartphones, but it's a lot closer than the Z Fold 6. And honestly, I like what the Z Fold 6 does. I like the form factor, but this is really good for compatibility. So like a game like Wild Rift, if you find that you're not able to enjoy it on the big screen because of the aspect ratio, boom, you can play on the outer display and have no issue. Like, look, it's a full regular smartphone screen on the outside. I will note though that the ergonomics are a little bit, I wouldn't say bad, it's a little bit different. It doesn't feel like there's as much to grip onto. Like at least with the Z Fold 6 on the outer display, it's long, so it kind of goes into, the part of my finger right here. But V3 is good. I much prefer this aspect ratio for gaming than the Z Fold 6's outer display. In terms of unique things about the software, there are a bunch of different features that could enhance your experience on the Honor Magic V3. Like for example, you have a bunch of gestures. Like there's one called screen knock where you knock the screen twice with your knuckle and it takes a screenshot really quickly. That's super cool, honestly, to me. Then you can also do 3-finger swipe down and it will save whatever to your favorite spaces. And that's another thing I'm going to talk about. So if we go to favorite space, this is just like different things that you can save. You can save files, pictures, screenshots, etc. And then easily access this space from the edge of the screen right here. There's a little tab. If you swipe that, you have your favorite space. Yeah, it's like you can access this anywhere on your phone. And like, let's say it's a picture and you're in an app that is compatible, you can drag and drop your favorite space photo to this app, or you can drag it and then open up something called the magic portal where you can drop it to another app, and it quickly, when you drop it into an app, it quickly opens that app into a floating window and then, applies it. So like I dropped into notes and it quickly made it into a note with the photo there. So that is really cool functionality. And there's just a lot of little features like that. Some other notable ones are you have knock and draw a C. To do a smart screenshot where you can mark it, you can zoom in, crop it, all that kind of stuff. Raise your phone to your ear to automatically answer a call. I think that is a really cool gesture because you can just, boom, start talking when somebody calls you. You don't even have to swipe or anything like that. And then there's also some other ones that I find pretty cool and interesting. You can also force multi-window and floating windows with this right here in settings, forcing that on all apps. Some smartphones just don't allow multitasking on every single app, but Samsung and Honor have it figured out where every app works, except for some like system apps, like the settings app on the Honor Magic V3 does not work in multitasking. So there's that. But it is cool that they have that ability to force apps. And there's just a lot more customizations, a lot more little features on this phone that make it a good experience, and honestly pretty comparable to the Z Fold 6. Like bar for bar, this is probably the foldable phone that has the most features. Maybe second to the OnePlus Open or the Oppo Find N5, Oppo Find N3. They're pretty close in terms of like feature set and like customization, gestures, multitasking. And I think Honor is like right there, maybe a little bit lower with a little bit less features. But I think Honor has the best pen, the best stylus. Like in terms of ergonomics, this stylus is the best. It feels and looks like a regular pen. It has a nice magnetic cap that you can play with. Charges with USB-C. And then I wouldn't say it's as fast or responsive as the S Pen in like my eye test, my day-to-day experience. But I think it's a really good stylus that you can get real stuff done. Like if you're an artist, you can definitely draw, especially a little bit more than the Z Fold 6. The Honor Magic V3 has a bigger screen, a bigger display, and that is just better for drawing and for arts, more surface area to, rest your palm and stuff like that. It allows for a better pen experience in that sense. There aren't too many features though. Despite it being Bluetooth, you can't really you can't use it for the camera like you can with the S Pen Pro on the Z Fold 6 to, take pictures and stuff like that. But in the camera app, you do have different things that allow you to take a picture without having your hands on or touching the phone. So if you go to settings and then smart capture, you can use your voice control to say cheese. You can speak loudly to take a photo. You can do show your palm, just like Samsung. You can have it automatically capture people when they smile, and then auto capture like motion and stuff like that. So if you prop up your phone with the hinge, you can automatically start taking pictures from a distance. So you don't necessarily need a Bluetooth pen to do that. Although it would have been nice because it's Bluetooth anyways. But yeah, Honor has you covered in terms of the gestures to take a quick photo without touching your phone. And then while we're in the camera app, let's look through it. So, you have basically all the features that you're used to on regular smartphones, Android phones, iPhones. But then you have a little bit more. And like I said, it goes bar for bar with Samsung in terms of the features that you have. So you have movie, where it's basically a manual video control where you can change this different settings, the resolution, the frame rates. You have access to log video on the V3, which is really cool. The Z Fold 6 does not have that. And then you can do time lapses. There's a bunch of different features in movie mode. So it's like a full manual camera mode. And then if you go to Pro, this is your Pro photography mode. And you have bare different features. You have aspect ratio that you can adjust. You have the leveler, histogram, which is really nice for seeing the balance of your image, the highlights and the lowlights, the format, so JPEG, JPEG-L, and RAW. Then you can adjust your shutter speed and all that stuff on this side. And then if you go to more, you have dual view, so you can record the front camera and the back camera at the same time. Only maxes out at 1080p 30 FPS though, unfortunately. Whereas the Z Fold 6 can do 4K 30, up to 4K 30. And yeah, you can have two different cameras going at the same time. That is a really cool feature, especially for somebody who might want to vlog or make different kinds of content. You can do that. Then you have portrait, night, and aperture. I'm not too sure what aperture is. I guess it's mimicking the actual camera with the depth of the aperture and stuff like that. So Yeah, you got a bunch of different camera modes. Honestly, the cameras on this phone are really good. I think they are among the best for foldable phone cameras. I think they're better than the Z Fold 6s, but not in video. I think video is where Honor can improve on their cameras. But yeah, photography, they got you covered. You might not like the processing, but you can definitely change settings and you can go into manual mode, shoot raw photos, and edit photos how you want it to. So I think the cameras are really good on this phone, and you will most likely be satisfied, especially if you come from an iPhone. I feel like just having this level of control and also really good hardware and then a foldable phone experience. So it's not just a camera, but you can use the hinge to get different angles that you wouldn't normally. You can have the viewfinder at the bottom so that you can do what I said, or you can have the viewfinder at the top and then look at your photo preview. When it's open, you can also view your photos as well while you're taking for reference, which is really cool. And then the coolest feature, in my opinion, with foldable phones is that you're able to have the viewfinder on the cover display so that you can use the main cameras for selfie video, selfie photos, etc. Just it gives you so much options. Like for somebody who records YouTube videos, being able to do this is amazing because I can have the phone on a tripod and then I have the hinge bent like this, and now I can see the viewfinder while recording a top-down video. Like amazing utility. So I'm glad that Honor has also implemented this into their software. So yeah, camera experience is good. I definitely enjoy using this phone to take photos and videos. All right, so far I've been speaking really positive about this phone, and it is a really good phone. I do enjoy it. I love the thinness. I love the weight. I love, this green color is also really nice, and I like the matte back. But there are some things that I don't like. So the first thing I don't like is the speaker placement. So this phone has two speakers, top and bottom. It's supposed to be stereo, but it's a foldable phone. And even just in general, when you're playing games, the fact that both of the speakers are firing outwards, if you're holding your phone like this, you're covering the speakers really easily. And the speakers on top of that aren't that good anyways because of how thin the device is. Like I think the Galaxy Z Fold 6, although people make fun of it being thicker, it has better speakers. Not even necessarily about the loudness, it's about the depth of the sound. I feel like I enjoy listening to audio from the Z Fold 6 speakers, whereas with the V3, I kind of just turn off the volume or, I'll use Bluetooth earphones or something like that. So the speaker placement is not good, and then speakers are not good in general anyways. And then when you're using the phone, on the big screen and you are in landscape orientation, your hands are going to naturally be covering the speakers. So that's kind of annoying for like browsing the internet or watching YouTube videos or something like that. So you're mainly going to be like this, but you're losing a little bit of video real estate when you're in vertical. I mean, that's not necessarily a huge issue, but it is something to note, especially if you play games. Games are going to be in landscape orientation mostly. And then there is the option of rotating the phone and using it on the side of the camera bump. And while that is playable and doable, it doesn't feel as comfortable because the camera bump is here. And also something about touching your camera lens, when I used to have cameras, something about touching the lens just really feels bad. Like that's not something you do, not something that you're supposed to do. You want to make sure your camera lens is clean, your sensor is clean, all that stuff. So it kind of just makes me feel, a little weird to be, greasing up my camera like that. So on top of it being uncomfortable ergonomically wise, touching the camera is it just feels bad. So yeah, there's that. That is one of the main issues I have with the hardware. Although it is really impressive and really nice, enjoyable to use and hold, there's that. The other issue I have with the V3 is that the app drawer seems like an afterthought on this phone. And like when you get it by default, it doesn't have the app drawer enabled, but when you turn it on, as you can see, it works and it feels fast, but like it's just the animation is just I don't know, it doesn't seem or look fluid to me. And then on top of that, when you enter it into it, there's like a weird thing that keeps you from like stopping. Like see, if you swipe up a little bit and then go to try and dismiss it, it kind of bounces. So you have to kind of like swipe it away instantly or make sure that you move to the top and then swipe down or something. Like I don't know if you can tell what I'm talking about. Like I feel like it's just not like well thought out or coded. Like obviously there's some logic here, but I don't agree with it. So that's something I dislike about this phone. I feel like the app drawer could have been better. Although it's an app drawer, it does what it's supposed to. It has alphabetical order. You can find your apps. You have the search at the top, and you can find your apps very quickly and stuff like that. So it's not bad. And then the other thing is like limitations. This is not a huge issue either. This is just like personal preference and coming from a Samsung device. But not being able to have more than 2 floating windows is kind of whack. And also not being able to have 3 apps in split screen is also kind of whack. That's something I do on my Z Fold devices regularly, believe it or not. I'm a big multitasking enthusiast. You know, I multitask on the regular, multiple apps. Sometimes I use like 8 apps at a time. I go crazy with it. So the limitation is kind of unfortunate. I do like the fact that you have two in the first place. I do like the fact that this has a desktop mode, kind of like Samsung Dex, but it's unfortunate that you're only limited to two floating windows, and then on the cover screen, you can only do one floating window. You cannot go past that. And then I already kind of mentioned this, but the thermal performance is just not that good. Like, this is a really thin phone. Like, look at it. It's impossibly thin. Basically as thin as like the regular, Z Fold 6 S Pen. Super, super thin. Like, they really fit technology into this body. And I know the Oppo Find N5 is slimmer than this, thinner than this. And that's also crazy too. But the thermal performance could be better. This phone heats up pretty easily. Like, just transferring files off of this phone, using my little USB drive right here, just transferring files off this phone, the phone heats up super, super fast for no reason. So I'm not sure what's going on in the software, and just the fact that it's slim. I'm not sure what the cause is, but this phone heats up pretty quickly. Like, it doesn't burn me, but it's definitely kind of concerning that it heats up. And the thermal performance, I mean, you can experience it in gaming and video editing, like high-end tasks. You could definitely notice that this thing will thermal throttle faster than other devices, like for example the Z Fold 6, which is a little bit thicker. So that is unfortunate. The thickness, slimness is cool, the lightweight is cool, but I wish the performance was better at the high end. Day-to-day stuff, you're not going to notice what I'm talking about. You'll have a good experience with this phone. And yeah, I mean, there's not really much else to dislike about this phone. This device is really good. I definitely recommend it to people who want a good foldable experience. The other thing, I guess, is that it's not available in Canada. So if I buy this for myself, then if it breaks, like, I'm kind of screwed over. I'm losing like $2,000 because it's still really expensive here secondhand. I'm losing a lot of money, and then I can't really fix it. I can try to find screens secondhand online through eBay or whatever to fix it myself even, but even that's a risk, and it will cost me hundreds of dollars most likely. So the fact that there's no warranty here, it's not available in Canada, that really sucks. Honestly, if this was in Canada, I would buy it myself, 100%. I probably would have bought it over the Z Fold 6, even though I love Samsung software. If this phone was supported here, like, there's just some things about it that would win me over. Like, for example, having pen support on the outer display. That's something that, Samsung should have had from a long time. So that would have been nice. And then also the camera potential, because of the hardware, is nice. I like the fact that Honor is keeping up with the customization, and multitasking is good, slimness, the weight. And then this color, this green color, I probably would have just bought it. It probably would have won me over the Z Fold 6, even though I really love the Z Fold 6's design. Yeah, man, the fact that it's not available here in Canada sucks. But to wrap up the video, this phone is a really good device. Like, just not even a foldable phone, just the phone itself. If you just use it like this, you're gonna have a good time with this device. This phone is really good. It's fast, smooth, has fast charging, stylus support even on the outer display. Like, you can live off of this device, but then it opens up and it's a really good experience on the inside. It doesn't have as much customization as Samsung, but honestly, what you have here is good enough. And I think most people would have a good experience with this device. And maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like the aspect ratio is slightly better than other foldable phones with the bigger screens. I feel like it's a little bit closer to the Z Fold 6 with a taller, vertical aspect ratio on the inside, which helps with different apps and stuff like that. Maybe I'm wrong though, but that's what it feels like. But anyways, really good device, and I really hope you guys come to Canada, release these phones in Canada, so I can buy it firsthand. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want me to test anything while I still have this phone for the rest of this week. And yeah, until next video, we're out. Peace.